The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual guests. If you're a sensitive snowflake that may get easily offended, then turn this off immediately. If you want to hear the real truth about the gun culture, then stick around. This is the Armed Citizen Podcast. What is going on, my Go Squad? Welcome to the Armed Citizen Podcast Live. This is episode number 163. Today's date is Tuesday, October 20th, 2020. We are exactly 2 weeks away from our official election day. And if you're like me, I voted yesterday. I'm sure a lot of people have already voted much earlier than that, but we are live as always on YouTube, and we are, for the very first time, proud to announce that we are live over on Facebook as well. So if you're out there and you are new to the channel, new to the show, make sure you go ahead and say something out in the chat. We don't know if you're here unless you say something. If you want to ask a question to one of us on the panel, go ahead and tag one of us. We'll try to get your comments and your questions read. If you would like to text or call in the show, you can on the Ghost Tactical Hotline presented by Rod Shelley Gates at the Gun Cleaners. We're very good friends of theirs. Very proud to have them as part of the podcast. Go check them out at theguncleaners.com. That phone number is 530-364-4678. And just in case someone does call, I probably need to bring up the old website that I can get that just in case a phone call comes through. Kind of exciting news. I can't really go into much of the details yet, but suffice to say that on November 1st, we will be announcing, actually be November 3rd, but we'll announce it November 1st, but November 3rd will be the first show with a new sponsor that I'm very excited about. Rick Nethery's out there on the Facebook side. It's cool to see you live on Facebook too. Semper Fi, Semper Fidelis. Yeah, we are live on Facebook. So if you like Facebook more than YouTube, that's cool. If you're on our page over there, you'll be able to see the live. And obviously the notification went out because Rick's over there. So the Gun Snob says, who is that sexy dude with 3 hairs standing up on his head? Well, we're going to get to him right now. Our first panelist and friend and I guess guest of the show is from North Carolina, the head gearhead himself with the flowing hair. I mean, look at that.
I got all of them standing up right now, all 3 of them.
All 3 of them out there.
Oh, yeah.
We got Jeff from Gear Report. What's up, homie?
Those 3 hairs, straight up.
Straight up. Now, do you have to like put gel on those to get them to stand up, or what happens?
I just tell them to.
Oh, okay.
Yep, cool. They're very obedient. That's why they're still around. All the disobedient ones, you're out of here, suckers.
You know, I noticed that they made a quick exit to the border, didn't they? They went, the sea parted and everything on the sides are cool, but they opened up a lane right there, a little runway, if you will.
Honestly, they just moved south. They're all here. They're just not up there anymore. They just worked their way down.
There is, unfortunately, I get ads all the time on YouTube, but there's a way to get around that. There's the new Manscaped razor down there. So just saying, maybe you could review one of those.
Like I don't use manscaping products already.
Oh, well, I
really
that you did. That maybe you do. That's right. That's right.
I'm thrilled to be here. I'm sorry to derail things already. That's my specialty, though.
That's why
derail immediately.
Why I invite you, because someone's got to keep this off the rails.
Yeah.
And our good friend from the great state of Texas, the tactical leprechaun himself. What's up, Clove?
Yo, what's happening?
Yo, what's up? What's up? We've already got a great question. And Beretta Black, love the name, by the way, says, what is the real reason there's an ammo shortage and why is the price so outrageously expensive? Let's tackle the second part first. And that's pretty easy. It's called supply and demand. Okay. The supply, and I'm sure most of you know this, but some of you may not. Ammo companies have a regulated schedule of when they are going to produce certain ammos. When the springtime hits, most of them are starting to gear into the hunting calibers to get ready for the fall to ship out and all that. So when this thing hit, they weren't producing the pistol calibers, if you will. They were already moving into other calibers, and it's not like they can just stop their schedule and stop everything else to catch up. Now, as far as the real reason, Clover, Jeff, do you guys want to take a dive as to why the real reason the prices are high or the shortage is low? I kind of give you my opinion, but what do you guys think?
I'm curious. You often hear the conspiracy theories about big government contract orders sucking up supply at certain times, driven by political motivations. I have no idea if there's any validity to that in this case, but I am a huge fan of throwing out that conspiracy theory whenever I can.
No, and I think that's somewhat valid. We do know that obviously the ammo companies are going to give first priority to the big distributors and the big retail outlets, the big box stores, because they're going to buy a huge amount of bulk. The average local gun shop is going to buy, let's say they buy 10,000 rounds of each caliber. Well, you've got other companies are going to buy 10 million rounds of each caliber at a time. And that might be a monthly order, I mean, it's crazy. So no, I think that the conspiracy theory isn't that crazy. Clover, do you have a thought or opinion on this? I'm sure you do.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're seeing, it's not a run like we've ever seen before, I don't think, because there's an element at play here because of the and all the lockdowns that resulted, worldwide lockdowns. We've got a raw materials issue. And so if you talk with a lot of these companies, you'll hear it. It's like, we can move some things around, we can ramp up, but the problem is we can't get the brass in, we can't get the lead in, we can't get this in or that in, because whatever factory in whatever country and wherever it's at has been locked up, shut down, running skeleton crew, whatever. Thankfully, you're starting to see some of that open back up, which is a good thing. But everybody, as you pointed out, everybody's already behind as far as the ammunition manufacturing goes. And then on top of that, the supply chain of, as Jeff pointed out, with military contracts, not just military contracts, but law enforcement contracts, things of that nature are going to come first. There's certain obligations that those manufacturers have. Even charitable things for youth shooting sports organizations, stuff like that. We get allotted, 4-H shooting sports, for example, gets allotted so much ammunition through the grant programs every year, right? And so all of that's got to get set aside. And then it goes to the big distributors, like you were talking about, and the big retail chains. And then finally,
there's another aspect before you even go to those. You have the contractors. Those guys buy up an enormous amount.
They probably, I would be willing that falls into the military, police, grant.
Well, it might fall into their, it's not going to fall into that contract, but it probably falls in that department. Sure.
Yeah. In that area. Yeah.
No doubt. Yeah. It's crazy.
Because you got to think they're probably getting a deal. If you're talking about contractors and stuff, they're probably getting a deal, especially if they're going straight to the manufacturer. So there probably is some sort of contractor obligation there.
Oh, there's a contract. It's just not going to be a government contract. Well, they definitely
no. And yeah, exactly.
They definitely have a contract for sure. And I know what a buddy of mine who has a contracting company in DC. We were talking a few months ago about different stuff, and ammo came up with it, and it's scary how much ammo they bring in a year. It's scary how much they bring in a year. I mean, it's mind numbing, and that's just one contractor. That's just one company. It's stupid. I've got a friend of mine that owns a company called Cheaters, and I think you guys have maybe seen me or heard me talk about Cheaters. It's an ammo easy way to load ammo into magazines and all that. He's here in Arkansas, and he's put in an order for 10 million rounds, and he's a small company from a small town, Arkansas. So if he's ordered 10 million rounds of 9mm, you can imagine what, he hasn't gotten them. He's getting pallets at a time, but it's been a pallet, and then 2 months later, another pallet, and he's getting them all in. It's spread over a 2-year contract, but it's, oh, that's right, Jeff. It is AR Kansas. You're right. My fault. It is AR Kansas, not Arkansas. So anyways, yeah, that's one of the reasons why the ammo shortage is out there is you have a lot of different variables. Obviously, you have supply and demand. People are just buying up as much as they can when they can. So even if it's available, it's gone. I mean,
I think there's a lot of self-fulfilling prophecy happening here.
Sure. And I think that there are people out there bad mouthing, I'm not going to call them the hoarders, but the people that are stockpiling.
Vultures.
Vultures.
From 2013. From 2013, those guys we started referencing, and I'm on a lot of forums and boards and things like that where, do a lot of buying, selling, swapping and stuff like that. And for 2013, we started calling them vultures because they're the old guys, retired, whatever, don't work. They could show up at Walmart at 5 o'clock in the morning when right after the truck has come in, suck up their 3 boxes or their whatever. What's crazy about Walmart is with the shortage going on, I just picked up some 30/30 the other day. I walked by, did some 30/30 for a video project I've got coming up, and was doing some shopping, walked over there, and lo and behold, there was 3 or 4 boxes on the shelf. I said, good Lord, you got 30/30. I can't believe it. In the middle,
right.
almost in the middle of hunting season here. And, when I got to looking, because I checked out there, it's quicker. I didn't have items that needed to be weighed, checked out there. Well, while he was ringing me up, I was just kind of perusing the case. There was no signage anywhere that there was any kind of limits at Walmart either. So even though we're into this whatever panic buying, the shortage, the whatever you want to call it, unlike 2013 where they had the 3-box limit or whatever, at least here at the Walmarts here, they don't have that.
Yeah. The Walmart here doesn't have limits. They just don't have anything. Like literally, the ammo case is empty of any calibers. It has been for a couple of months now. So nothing, nothing. I think about a month or 2 ago, they had literally like 4 boxes of like 17 HMR. That's it. Everything else was gone. So Travis T says that Walmart only sells FUD rounds. This is true. It is true. Bernie out there says Walmart in his town has nothing but shotgun shells. I think you're going to find that if you live, Hans, my buddy Hans, who I shoot with, he's here in town. I shoot with him a lot. Good friend. He says, I understand Walmart has quit selling handgun. Yeah, they quit selling handgun rounds aside from 22 LR. About a year ago? I guess it was about a year ago. They were going to sell what they had left in stock, and they weren't going to do it. It was right after the El Paso Walmart incident. So after that, no more. So, yeah, it was
that's the last time I cared what Walmart had in stock.
There you go. If you live where I am, you kind of are forced to go to Walmart for certain things unless you want to drive an hour. I try to go to my local grocery store as much as I can, but there are just some things that you can't avoid going to Walmart for. But it is what it is. So yeah. Let's see here. Patriot says, Patriot, you have a link in your email, dude. I don't know why you don't understand that. But you got a link. If you'd like to join us, we'd love to have you. But he says his local gun shop had a box of 9mm hollow point, 20 rounds for $40. I mean, honestly, that's not terrible. It really isn't. Because if you're looking at, Critical defense, you're even looking at some HST or PDX1. You're talking 25 to $30 regularly. So a $40 box of hollow point may not be crazy high. It's still high, but it's not as bad as I've seen. Who was that was saying, maybe Snobber? Someone said it at a gun show. Guy was selling a box of 9mm. I don't know if they're reloads or what, but 9mm rounds for like $65 a box. And I'm sure he sold them. So, all right. What's the craze before we jump into this? Jeff, off the top of your head, whether it's local, on the internet, wherever, for let's say 9mm, because we kind of know what the price, let's say anywhere from $9 to $15 is the normal, $10 to $15, a normal price for 50 rounds of 9. What's the craziest thing you've seen that either locally or on the internet for 9mm?
Honestly, I haven't been looking. My strategy for dealing with this type of situation is I keep what I think I'm going to need. I keep 6 months or so worth of what I think I'm going to need on hand. And then when the prices go through the roof, I just ignore them. That said, I did stumble on an opportunity to buy. I got a batch of 10,000 rounds, and I think 3,000 of those were 9mm. And I think I was about 10 cents a round on those, what I paid for them. Yeah. I'm trying to get $1 a round for them. So if you need anything, let me know. I plan on retiring off of this. So y'all need to buy something quick.
Even if you get 50 cents a round, you're still making some good money, man.
Yeah. Yeah. But, I've heard people, I think TJ was saying that in Florida, he saw, I think he said $2 a round at his local range. And I was like, what?
$2 a round?
You still talk to these people?
Well, and let's be fair, though. Let's be fair. If you watch Letterkenny, you'll understand that reference. But anyways, let's be fair that at most ranges, if you buy ammo at the range, it's all inflated because they're going to go buy it from the local. They're not buying from a distributor. They're going down to the Walmarts. They're going to the local gun shops, buying it retail and then reselling, especially if you're renting guns at a gun shop / range. I mean, you're going to get bent over by those prices to begin with. So honestly, $2 a round, I mean, that sounds like a lot of money, but that's probably par for the course if you're buying at a range for a rental. I mean, it's crazy, but people buy that stuff because a lot of them won't even let you bring your own ammo to go test a gun. If you're going to rent the gun, you're going to buy our ammo, and they're just going to – it is what it is.
Yeah, it's why I don't go to ranges.
Yeah, TJ said it was a shock. In my range, we don't sell ammo. We're a club. We don't do that. We bring your own and you do what you got to do. Clover, do you remember, what's up, RL? Hope you're safe. If you're driving out there, be safe. Do you remember, Clover, the craziest price that you can remember seeing in the last couple of months?
I'm like Jeff, man. I don't pay attention. I advocate that people prepare for a time like this. And I am always prepared for a time like this. So once it comes back around, I'll continue to buy up, soak up stuff again, and I'll be ready the next time it comes around because it will come around again.
Yep.
It's cyclical. For all the young bucks, the new guys, the whatever, lesson learned. Buy it while you can buy it.
Over there, he's looking at his press now. I'm sorry, Chloe, but before you go, Jeff, are you able to reload anything? I mean, do you have a backlog of primers and all that? Because I heard primers are.
Oh yeah,
ammo.
I don't even know how many there are.
Okay, so you've got plenty.
Thousands. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Yep. Sorry, Clove. Go ahead, bud.
Oh yeah, I'm the same way with reloading stuff. You can get on if you got to be vigilant and you really got to spend some time, but you can get online and you can get the email notifications or text notifications from a lot of these different places and set it all up. The thing is, you can't lollygag. In other words, you get that notification, you can't think about, well, I'll transfer some money in the bank or I'll do something tomorrow or you need the money sitting there. And we're talking fairly reasonable, regular prices. But be ready when you get that email. You need to check if you set it up on an email, make sure you check your email every hour or at least have some kind of push notification on. And as soon as you get that to your phone, send it to your phone. That way, wherever you're at, you can get it. You can jump online. You can pull the trigger on it. And I'm seeing people around here that's getting some stuff online that way. But like I said, you got to be vigilant with it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, my supply is probably half of what it was 6 months ago, and I've still got plenty left. But my mind's kind of going crazy because deep in the recesses, well, it doesn't go too deep because it's a lot of air up there. But in the recesses of my puny brain, I know that I'm about halfway, and so that's driving me it's driving me crazy. So it is what it is. 223 says he's buffering bad. I don't know if it's him. Anybody else having buffering issues? Let me know. But I haven't seen anything else. Might just be your internet 223. Anyway, so like I said, tonight's topic is going to be an interesting one. I got an email from a guy named Curtis about a week ago. This like last Wednesday, and was talking about mandatory national service and what I thought about that topic. And I have had this discussion before over the last few years, and nothing in major. RL says he can hop on. All right, well, I'm gonna put the link out there. A good thing about StreamYard is I can put the link out there and still control who comes in. So there you go. If you want to jump in, there's the link, and I'll do that. And so it's an interesting conversation all the time that I have, because I can see both sides of it. But he asked what I thought, and I said, well, that'd be an interesting topic to have, because with everything that's going on in our country with civil unrest and social justice stuff going on, obviously with the pandemic, my daughter being of the age of the millennial, that's, she's 23 and all of that, and knowing what she went through, and I'm sure Jeff and Clover have kids that are getting ready to go to college. I don't remember what that was like for them at 18 years old. We remember what we were like at 18 years old. And, were we ready? Are the kids ready today to go to college or go to trade school or go straight into work? Are they able to have the responsibility and the work ethic and all that? Some are, there's no doubt about it. But that's what we're going to discuss about. So I'm going to start with our buddy Black Cat, since he just joined in. What's up, RL? How you doing, bud?
Not too bad. I don't know. Is the audio all right on this? I'm on my Bluetooth headset walking the dog here.
Yeah, you sound fine.
Okay.
So what I want to do is not jump into the reasons why to start out, but just a quick, brief summation of, do you think that mandatory national service in America is good for our country, and would it be good for our youth?
That's tough, because I'd like to say yes, but no, I think that kind of violates the idea of freedom. You know what I mean? Requiring somebody to do that.
Sure.
Now, I will say this: I could see a stipulation of. Have you ever read what was I thinking of? Where military service guarantees citizenship. You know what I mean?
Well, that's already happening right now. I mean, I know that there are people that are immigrants that are doing that, but that's not a mandatory thing. That's just an option for them.
Yeah.
I think that I'm going to come back to that, because that's a really good talking point. Clover, what about you? Right off the top, without going too deep, I mean, do your initial thoughts. Mandatory national service, good or bad for the U.S.?
On paper, I think it's good. I think in practice, not so much. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on how I would approach that, but that's a summary of the way I feel.
I hear you. Jeffrey, what about you? The summary, as Clover put it so eloquently, the summary of mandatory national service. I think I know where you're going, but
You want succinct, brief? Is that what you're looking for here?
You don't have to be succinct, but don't go down the rabbit hole yet, because we're going to go down that rabbit hole here in a little bit. But yeah, just your summation of your thoughts.
Yeah. I don't want to say no, because I think hell no is more appropriate.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it's one of those where, like I said, I see both sides of it. I guess I'm a little bit biased to this, maybe a little bit on one side than the other. So I'm going to say yes. I think that it's probably could be a great thing. That being said, there are different ways to maybe go about this, instead of saying every 18-year-old must serve a year, 2 years, whatever that stipulation would be. But I think here's the issue: is I think most people, and at this point, guys, just jump in. But I think the biggest problem that most people have with it is they automatically assume when you hear mandatory national service, it means military. And that is the case in a lot of countries around the world. But there are other ways to serve your country than just serving in the military. Some people just aren't cut out for the military, and that's great. But there are some different civil services that you can do. But I think that
well, there's stuff that's not even government. It's not even a government program, and so
correct.
To jump into the weeds on at this point anyway, with what I was thinking, is that every person is different. Certainly, every kid is different. You have those that graduate top of their class. Obviously, they've got their crap together. They're going on to college. They're getting their education, they're entering into the workforce, they're doing that. You've got others that maybe don't graduate the top 10, but they've had some type of vocational training in high school. They went into some type of trade school stuff along the way. They're ready to enter the workforce. They've got their crap together. So what we're talking about, I don't know what the percentage of people or kids, right? 18-year-olds, whatever, that this actually applies to. That would be an interesting number to know. But there is a real lack of, people think about military service. All right, GI fund or going to school for, military service. And that helps you not only going through the military, can it help you with a career path and figuring out maybe what you want to do, but it also could help, with GI Bill, with whatever, pay for some of that stuff, education and stuff down the road. And people get fixated and stuck on the military aspect. I think you're absolutely right. And there's other civil service thing that's government oriented, but there's also privatized stuff. There is, what am I thinking? Apprenticeship's not the word, maybe. What am I thinking? Where you
there
go?
Are apprenticeships for sure.
Yeah, but it's like,
a welder
internships is what I was,
absolutely.
Is what I was thinking about, with private organizations that build houses for people, or maybe it's foreign aid program. It's privately run. It's not a government thing, but there's not enough awareness, I don't think, about those alternate avenues. It's like either you make good grades, or you're really good at welding, or you really good at football, or your parents are rich, or you're screwed, or you go to the military, or you're screwed, right? And that's not the case. There's not a category where you're screwed unless you're just lazy and you don't look for anything and you don't try, because there's plenty of stuff out there.
Now, Adhera out there has an interesting concept, and maybe this would be a compromise. Instead of serving 2 years, whatever, he says that he would support mandatory national service, but he can also see this side. How about mandatory basic training? That would be an idea to turn these kids into real adults' responsibility. Now, that's let's say a 3-month thing, a summer vacation after high school. You go spend a month, or even if you do it for a month, just the idea of being personally responsible. I think that there are things, like I said, I really, Patriot says no link. All right, well, I'm going to put it in the chat for you, bud. Jeff got the link. Clover, did you get the link with the email? Or did you use the one from Facebook?
I got both. So
okay. So Patriot, I don't know what to tell you, but there's a link. You can jump in if you like. But the reason why I tend to say yes is, and I'm not talking about specifically military service, as I said before. There's other things. You have different charitable organizations that go throughout all over the place, and that go overseas, that do different tasks, different jobs for peace and all of that, for hunger, for education around the world. But yeah, I do like Elfster's out there. What's up, Elfster? I do like the idea, maybe that, but the reason why I say yes is this. I'm not saying all, because you can't blanket all. There are some kids that are a 30-year-old mentally at 10 years old. There are some very, very bright kids, but I can tell you Peace Corps is one of them. Yes, Brian. But I wasn't ready for college at 18. That's why I had way too damn much fun and then ended up joining the Marine Corps at 19. But I think that a lot of kids, they leave home and they grow up in a bubble, and they get to college, and a lot of them go batshit crazy because they're away for the first time of, and that's great. We all did that. I'm all for that. But a lot of them don't have the responsibility to understand that get through this 4 years. You don't understand the repercussion, whatever the hell. I'm too dumb. I can't even talk tonight. I'm so tired. But anyways, they don't understand what happens if you screw off that first year. It's just going to keep adding on. I think that if someone was to go and say, I graduated high school and I'm going to go do something for a year, whether it is a boot camp or reserve training, or you go to Peace Corps, you go work for the USO, you work as an intern, you do something for a year to where you're not on scholarship from mom and dad at school or whatever, then they're going to come back, I think, after that year and see the big picture of, first, I don't know half of what I thought I knew. I don't understand really the ways of the world, and I'm not ready to fight the world on my own. Now, once again, I'm not saying this is a blanket over everyone, because there are kids that are able to do that. But for the ones that, that the vast majority of them, I don't think they're particularly ready. I think this is going to that was some kind of national service would give them a little bit of pride in our country. They would understand, because at that point they're able to vote at 18. So that would give them an opportunity to learn about how America works. Let them go overseas somewhere. If they think it's bad at their suburban home because they got the Volkswagen instead of the BMW, go over somewhere overseas and see, and you come back and you're like, damn, you know what? We've got it pretty good here. So I think opening the eyes and busting that bubble is the biggest reason that I would be for some sort of service, whether it's military or otherwise.
So you've kind of come about this from a different direction. I tend to, when I'm evaluating anything, I want to look at it in terms of what's the goal? What are you trying to achieve?
Sure.
So you laid out a solution, and now we're kind of working backwards into what would this proposed solution actually deliver? And is that something worth pursuing? So maybe you can just clearly state what's the output that you're trying to get from this proposed solution.
What's the outcome that I'm looking for? The outcome is I want our youth to understand the ways of the world. I want them to understand that there are repercussions to their actions. I want them to understand and feel the pride of being a U.S. citizen versus being somewhere else. Instead of yelling about how bad they have it, I want them to see how bad some people have it. More importantly, really, ultimately, what it comes down to, if I can just put it in a box, I want them to be more mature and know what the hell they're talking about, instead of just throwing shit in the air against the wall, seeing what sticks, basically repeating anything that their impressionable minds hear from a professor at college who is basically making their own book mandatory reading for college. They don't care about teaching kids these days. They're worried about selling their own books. So ultimately, my ultimate goal is I want kids to be more prepared for the real world, whether it's a trade school, whether it's college, whether it's just going to get a job, whether it's whatever it is. I think that a 20-year-old or 19-year-old with a little bit of service / experience of real world is more prepared to start their own lives than just heading out from home at 18 years old. That's my ultimate goal, is to have the next generation really prepared for what the hell's getting ready to come at their faces, because a lot of them, they get hit smack in the face with real world and they have no clue. They have no way of adapting to that. So that's, Stephen Otis says, I want to produce a better person. I want to produce better people that follow the laws and take care of their family and kids. That is a great way of saying it. Go ahead.
I would argue 2 points. Number one, I would argue it. What kids out there, again, we go back to numbers. What kids are you talking about? Because I contend that the vast majority are not these little prick idiots that are running around. The vast majority are productive kids. I mean, they go into the workforce, they start families, they whatever. They're not the troublemakers that everybody seems to think. And then the second argument I had was, if somebody was telling me what you're saying when I was 18, I would say, screw you, dude. I think I turned out okay. I think despite everything, I think I turned out okay. So who are we to sit here and say that those kids won't?
It's not a blanket thing. Yeah, go ahead, Aurel. Yeah.
I was going to say, the problem here is when you're talking mandatory service, you're talking about being required by the government. That's not their job. I'm assuming we're all parents here looking at who's on the board. I don't know the one guy in here very well, but that's our job to instill those things in them. I mean, you can't really do much about that if you have crappy parents. They're not going to instill those values in their kids.
But I know a guy. I got one of my best friends. He's he's the guy that owns the print shop that makes most of the stickers that I have. Right, and this dude had the crappiest childhood, the crappiest parents. He'll tell you straight up, and he is the best father, and everything else that best dude you could ever ask for. He's amazing. He broke that mold. So even having crappy parents is not a sentence to a repeated cycle. It's just not.
Absolutely.
No, like it's not.
This is not a blanket thing. This is not going to, and like you said, there are going to be a lot of kids or a lot of people, young adults that don't have issues. That's where I think this gets tricky. And this is why I thought it'd be a good discussion, because the word mandatory is, I think, what gives everybody a hiccup real quick. Go ahead, Aurel.
You're exactly right. That's my hiccup with it, is mandatory. I don't think
so.
Yep.
I guess he's through. So I know that you are into the sports thing and coaching and all that, Ghost. I know that Jeff does a lot with swimming, wrestling, and other things. I've obviously been in the youth shooting sports arena for a long time. So let me ask you this: with you two guys, when you're in that setting and there's other kids there, and maybe their parents aren't present or whatever, do you assume a mentor, father figure, parental type role with other? I mean, maybe you do it even with their parents there. I know with me on the range, I'm the ultimate authority, so I can do that. Coaching and sports may be a little bit different, but do you assume that role already? In other words, do we have at least 3 people on this panel that could be a factor in other kids' lives, regardless of how crappy their parents are?
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. Whether I want to admit that or not, that's exactly what a coach is. It's a mentor. It's not just someone who's going to teach a skill. It's a mentor, and I'm very proud to know that I have coached hundreds of kids, and like to think that most of them are somewhat touched by my being a part of their life. I'm not saying they are, but right. I'd like to think that.
And so my point with that is, we're kind of pointing at the kids saying, well, okay, the kids need to have mandatory service of some kind. Well, why don't we point, you point one finger, you got three pointing back at you. Why don't we point back at all the grown-ups and fathers and uncles and everything else that are out there in the live chat that are listening to this on a replay? I don't know what's going on.
I got a phone call, so hold on. Hold your thought.
Take it.
Armed Citizen Podcast. Who do we have?
This is WP, Warsaw Patriot.
What's up, homie? What's going on? What you got?
So, I got one question for you, especially with related to military and young generation, especially with today's generation. Do you think if people took the opportunity to think about joining the service, it would actually change their mindset and thinking on things and bring reality to this, to what an actual life is, to be making your life as a success?
Yeah, man. Thanks for the call. I appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and hang up in case no, but yeah, we'll answer that real quick. But thanks for the call, brother. You doing okay?
Yeah, doing good. Also,
yeah.
I'd like to bring up also, you're also mentioning about, people to speak out for people for, joining the service and all that. I came across this guy, David Goggins. You ever heard of him?
I have not. No. Have anybody here heard of him? Jeff said he has.
David Goggins.
Yeah,
he's a Navy SEAL and airman, and he touched on the subject.
Yeah, I'll have to go check that out. David Goggins with a G.
Yep, and he's actually wrote a book called "Can't Hurt Me."
Okay, well, I'll definitely go pick that book up. Then I'll go read about that. But yeah, thanks for the call, brother. I appreciate you very much.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks.
All right. So as far as the first question was, do I think that if someone served in the military, we'll use the military as the capacity of the question, do I think that they'll have a better understanding and respect, I guess, was kind of where he was going. Did I understand that correct, guys? Is that kind of what you got, that they'd have more of respect or understanding of what happens, especially on that side of thing? Yeah, absolutely, I do. I do think that if you go, at least go to boot camp, go to a 2 or 3 month basic training, a boot camp where you're going to be put in a situation where you're going to have to be responsible for your actions. You're going to have to be disciplined. You're going to have to understand team concepts and everything that you do. How could that not help your overall life's perspective on what it is that you understand? And I think a lot of it comes down to also that they maybe understand the military side of things, that maybe they were anti-military at one point. Who knows? I'm just saying that I do believe that if a kid has some experience in the military, even an ROTC program, they're still indoctrinated into a certain way of life to where they can understand what's going on. Jeffrey, you got something to say, it looks like.
You just said the word. I was sitting here groping for a word. See, that's the groping, if anyone was wondering. That's what I was groping for. Indoctrination. Okay. This is conceptually, this is the most dangerous part of this whole discussion, is you're talking about some sort of service, some sort of putting themselves under the influence of our government. I don't know about you guys. I don't trust our government as far as I can throw it. Do I want them indoctrinating every youth that's out there? Personally, I think it's bad enough that the government controls our education system. Excuse me, our propaganda system.
Yep,
sure.
I don't want them getting their hands on more mandatory time with the greatest resource that our country has, and that's our young people.
No, I don't disagree with what you're saying. Take care, RL. He said, you want to say before you gotta go, do you want to give any plugs or anything? I know you gotta step out.
It's all right. No, I got my distance in with the dog here, so I'll be out in the YouTube chat for a while.
Let me know.
All right, thanks for the invite, man.
Yeah, man. Anytime, just let me know, bro.
Yep. Hey, have a good one, guys.
You too, bro. No, and I understand where you're going, and I want to take it to the opposite side of, just for argument's sake. You were saying being indoctrinated and being put under the influence by the government. And I would just, for argument's sake, say that there's another argument on the other side saying that whether it's government or not, and I guess it would be if it was mandatory national service, but instead of saying they're going to have to follow the lines of this, that, and the other. This is what they have to do. I want to say that they're going to be presented with new experiences that could open their eyes and let them understand that it's a much bigger world than their little suburbia that they grew up in. And I think that that's kind of where, and that's just a way of looking at things, you know.
There are a lot of things that they do in Europe that culturally are just part of what they do that I'm not a big fan of, but something that I think is really incredible is in some parts of Europe, if your family has the means, which, you know, a lot don't, but for the ones that do, it is expected that they'll take a year or two to travel the world before they go to university.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about opening your eyes, appreciating where you're from, appreciating the pros and cons of how your country does it versus other countries. I can tell you about it. I can indoctrinate you about that all I want. But if you go put your butt in that other environment and spend a couple months in South America, in Africa, in Asia, in the US, you know, in you know, different parts of Europe, experience those things for yourself. Now you're going to come back with the broad perspective and some appreciation for some of the things that we have that other people don't. And, you know, I'm sure you get both sides of that as well.
Okay. So before I want to bring in Patriot. What's up, homie? Patriot, are you there?
Yeah. Yes. Okay. I know that. What was the original question? Was about the national service?
We've had several of them, but I mean, your initial, you know, your thoughts on the idea of mandatory national service for kids in America. Is it good or bad?
I got a lot to say about that. Mandatory service, yes. Military, no. I think
that's what I'm saying. It's not necessarily military.
Yeah. I think definitely lock them into. I mean, I sat in an airport in Bangkok and hung out with about, I don't know, 15 or so little older teenagers. They were graduated. It was in between high school and college. They were in the Peace Corps, and they were in one of those sink or swim, don't know the language, going to Laos or whatever it was, you know, to do the Peace Corps thing. Any of that kind of stuff that's actually going to take them out of mommy and daddy's house, take them out of the, I got a scholarship for baseball and I get halfway there and it's not, you know, safe like home. So I turn around and come home like, you know, my best friend in high school did. You know, it's ridiculous, you know, to get them out to do something. Now, military, no, because, you know, if your heart isn't in it, you're not going to do it. And I don't want the guy next to me wanting to be, you know, at the mall or going to school or something. So the military, no, but definitely the engineers, the engineer corps or whatever it is, where they can help. Yeah, where they're actually out there doing physical stuff that's, you know, hey, they got to get up at a certain time. They got to do a certain amount of work. They're earning something, you know, if it's credit or they're earning actually a couple dollars, but it's something that would be, put more into them, because I know a lot of kids that come right out of high school. They're great kids. They do all their work. You know, schoolwork was easy. They go into college and then they just, you know, they fall off and they go nuts, you know, because there's no regiment. There's no, you know, schedule. You know, even in college, you pick your classes. Oh, I'm going to sleep until, you know, 11 o'clock before I go to my first hour.
I can miss this class today. It's not a problem.
You know, it's ridiculous because, you know, what's the difference? I'm not paying for it. I'll pay for it, you know, once I graduate. Or, you know, I got a couple of those scholarships. I got a grant because I smoozed up with the Lions Club or whatever it is. There's so much that if you pack it in and you get some good experience, the traveling thing, you know, you show up in a third world country, turn around and look back at the U.S. When you get back to the U.S., you will definitely have a different point of view on everything. On those lazy guys that hang out in front of the 7-Eleven, you know, not doing anything, you're going to look at them like, you guys don't understand how it is when you walk off an airplane and the guy, this is just the ladder or whatever, the stairs to the runway, and there's guys with automatic rifles standing there, and it's just their job. But you're not in Kansas.
This is true.
I don't know. That's just my thing. The conscript thing, as far as military though, I don't think for the most part that's a good thing. In World War II, there was more draftees than in Vietnam, and we know how that turned out. As far as how the greatest generation, that kind of thing. So I don't think being dropped into a situation is as bad, but where you're just pushed into something and your heart's not into it, I don't think. Eventually you learn, especially if you're there long enough. But,
yeah.
Anyway.
No, and that's why I wanted. No, you're fine. No, you're awesome. That's why I brought you in. That's why I preface this that we're not talking strictly military service. Clover, you made a comment. Did you want to bring that up or move on?
It's important to point out when we're talking about kids slacking off and not doing and this, that, and the other, that a very large percentage of scholarships are grade based. So you don't have that going on. I'm sure if mom and daddy are paying for it, or maybe if you took out a college loan, but I can't see somebody, people do it, I'm sure, but majority percentage wise, I don't see a lot of people even taking out a college loan, thousands of dollars, and then cutting class and acting a fool. So again, I think we're talking about, as I've said before, I think we're talking about a small percentage of quote unquote kids out there.
Right. Hold on just a second. Jeff, you want to come on in?
Yeah. So, again, I tend to be a goal-oriented person. It all comes down to what is the goal you're trying to achieve, and is this the best way to achieve that goal? So I keep hearing people talk about, a year or two of compulsory service and to help learn about the country and develop a routine and learn how to be a productive part of our society and to appreciate what we have as a country and how it works and all of that. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself as I'm listening to that, what the hell's our school system for if it's not teaching all this stuff? They have my kids for 13 years, right? Kindergarten and then 1st through 12th grade. I thought they were supposed to be teaching them all that stuff there.
Doesn't happen. Not so much.
Do you really think that giving them to the government for another year or two is going to make a difference? If they've had them for 13 fucking years and haven't gotten through to them, do you really think another year or two and taking away their freedom by making it mandatory?
Okay.
That's massive to me. The idea that you make anything compulsory like that is incredibly massive because you are denying someone their freedom to do that.
Okay. So I don't disagree with that. So let's take a scenario, because I did this on Gary's chat this Sunday and it went down some really interesting avenues. So I like throwing out hypotheticals at this point, but there's a hypothetical that I'd like the panel to talk about and all of that. Let's say they graduate high school or they whatever. This will be something that we could, I know that, Jeff. But this is going to be something that encourages kids to not only finish high school, but to care a little bit more about high school and to get involved as a youth. So just go with me here. How about that upon graduation from high school, you're not able to start college until the next year, or trade school or anything like that? You can do what you want to. It's not going to be mandatory service, but if you graduated in 2020, you can't start school until 2021, or you can't go to trade school in 2021. You're going to either take time off and do absolutely nothing, which is your choice, or you can work for a year before starting school. Anything besides going straight from high school into a trade school, college or whatever, with the included, if you graduate high school, and we can figure out the terms, but let's say you have a 4.0 or a 3.75 GPA, and you have done some sort of community service in high school, documented, been part of clubs that have done community service in high school, you get a waiver, head on out. You've proven that you are a good citizen and you're ready to go. If you drop out of high school, if you don't graduate, you don't do any of the things, you aren't a very good student in high school, then you don't start school in the fall. Something like that, a compromise, a scenario that entices kids in their youth ages, their pre-adult ages, which is 17 and below, to not only care about their education while they're in high school, but to not only care about education, but start the track of being a good citizen, a productive citizen, doing something that's community service, work at a church or volunteer your time for something that's documented. Then you get that waiver. Is that something that is completely out of whack here? Clover, I want to start with you.
Yeah, I think so. Honestly,
it's completely out of whack. Okay,
I think so, because the kids you're talking about that are going to get the bypass are already getting the bypass. They're doing that now, and so you may have somebody that muddles through high school because it's just mundane. It's not interesting. It's crappy social, whatever. And so they're looking for that next level. I want to get into, my passion is whatever, and I'm going to go to trade school for this or whatever. And so you're setting them back, and anything could go wrong in that year that throws them off their life's trajectory or whatever. So I think it's more harm than good. I think ultimately, you're talking about keeping kids on track, and those that are focused and they're headed for those scholarships and grants and going straight into college or trade school or whatever, doing well in high school, set those on a shelf, right? And let's look at the other ones and face the cold hard facts and the honest truth that the vast majority of the public education system is boring, mundane, ridiculous crap that has nothing to do with real life, and kids generally are not interested in it. So let's get back to a world where, when you go into a science class, you actually do science things. And when you go into a math class, you're actually doing math things. And let's get into having metal shop and woodworking and home economics and sewing and all of these other things that are available in school. Not only available, but actually get out. And this is the 3-finger pointing I was going to do earlier. Let's get out as we're pointing to the kids and saying these kids should do this or should do that. We got 3 fingers pointing back at ourselves. So if we're a father, if we're an uncle, if we're a grandfather, if we're a deacon in the church, if we're whatever we are, what are we doing to try to push kids into things, like you say, that are going to make them more focused, that are going to push them into a more of a sense of community, these clubs and different things like that. What are we doing as grown-ups, not just as parents, but as grown-ups and responsible people in our communities, right? I think it's a much bigger issue, but Jeff hit the nail on the head earlier when he talked about the public school system. I mean, the local school systems here are not that bad. But I see school systems all over the place. And another thing that I'm going to jump on too, you're talking about all these moving parts with this. When you talk about school, I love our teachers. Don't get me wrong.
Whole life's moving parts, bro.
I love teachers. I mean, we've got to have teachers. I get it, but there has been a shift. And so if you're out there and you're a teacher, don't get me wrong, and don't think this is hate on you. But if your ears are burning, there may be a reason why. I'll go ahead and say that.
Troll him.
In my day, which wasn't terribly long ago, but in my day, teachers were a master of their craft. I've got 3 children. They all went through school. I had to deal with teachers, and I'm talking more at the high school level. But you would walk into math class, and that dude was like a professor of math. He was a human calculator. My math teacher could literally write a problem on the board, a huge, big, complicated problem. him and another student, you give that student a calculator, they wait in the hall, you write that problem on the board, they both walk in, and before that other student, and now we're talking about a straight A student on a calculator, can work that problem, he'll work it out in his freaking head and give you the answer. We're talking about that caliber of teacher. Guess what? He wasn't teaching history. He wasn't teaching whatever, English, pick the subject, right? And it was the same way.
A lot of teachers don't even have degrees in the subject.
You're
getting
right.
Degrees.
There's this general education diploma. I'm okay with that for lower school. I get it. But high school, we need teachers that are masters of their craft to be able to impart actual wisdom onto the kids, period. The English teachers need to be writers and scholars and all that stuff. The historians, same way. They need to be a walking encyclopedia. The science teachers need to be mad scientists. The math teachers need to be human calculators. We need to get away from this notion. And you hear all this, well, teachers need more pay and they need more of this. Well, if we're going to give teachers more pay, let's go back to what it used to be, where if you're a math teacher, an actual math teacher teaching math, okay, you can have more pay. We'll give more pay for a specialized teacher. But if you're just a general teacher, hate your luck.
I think that one of the most egregious things that has ever happened in our society is No Kid Left Behind. I truly think that that is one of the most terrible policies, because at this point in high school, you're no longer pushing kids to want to learn more. You're teaching to that lower 10%, because No Kid Left Behind. I think
standardized tests.
Standardized
tests.
That's part of the No Kid Left Behind, because that's how they find out who the lower percentage is standardized tests.
But that's all they teach all year long.
They teach the Iowa testing or whatever the testing that your state does, and in February, school's over. Basically, it's over because
they watch movies.
They're done. That's right. That's right. Patriot, I guess, jumped, and
bye, Patriot. We love you.
Love you, man. Hope you can come back. If you just lost connection, come on back in. G, if you want to link, or that was Sarge, if you want, anybody else want to link that has something they want to say, let me know, and I'll put the link out there, and you're more than welcome to join. Matter of fact, I'll go ahead and just put that link out there, and you're more than welcome to come on, especially if you've never been on one of these. You might as well go ahead and get your feet wet here. So Jeffrey, I didn't get a chance to, did you have anything that you wanted to say? I know you put something back in the chat. I didn't know if you want to bring it up or not.
Yeah. So what I said in the private chat is this whole idea of mandatory service is teaching to the lowest common denominator. And that's really picking up on something you said about a minute and a half ago about, hey, Patriot's back.
Yeah.
It is something referencing teaching to the lowest common denominator, but that's really what was coming to my mind as you were talking about this earlier, trying to solve the problem of getting some of the least engaged, least patriotic, least appreciative, least prepared to go out and be productive members of our society. Those are the ones you're trying to target here. The lowest common denominator. Why do you need to tie everyone else up in that? We need to better target the ones who need something and figure out a carrot to entice them along the road instead of taking away their freedom, or the freedom of all young people, and forcing them into some indoctrination program.
Yeah. Patriot, you back, bud? Maybe not.
Yeah, it just takes me a minute to get to the button. Sorry.
No worries. So let's talk as a panel. Let's talk about the possibility of what you think. And so I'm going to start with Patriot. And I kind of understand where he was going before, but if you're not going to do the mandatory service, if you could be the lawmaker and you could set aside something that says, it's not going to be a law about it, because that might drive some people nuts. But here's my plan as to how to prepare kids to be ready for life. If mandatory service isn't the answer, what would be your answer?
Young Marines. No. First, I'd start with charter schools or school choice or whatever the nonsense is, where you can go to a school that's actually got teachers that are good and, whatever. So I know I'll get hate mail because of that, but if they start out with a school that actually teaches, what they're supposed to and not slanted stuff either way, either direction, life skills, all that kind of stuff, and actually high school is more for preparing you for what is to come, regardless of what you pick. That would be the first step, obviously. And obviously, even before that is the parents, actually be parents. That's always a bonus, and fill in. But as like a person in charge, I still think that, if you have the route of either trade school or college, which I know a lot of guys that went through school were straight A students, had a breeze, went into college, and they still haven't made anything. And this is 20 some years later, right? So, just because you do good grades in school, I mean, it all goes back on to what your school's capable of teaching you. Having the choice between the tech school, the college, or military, I still think, I don't know. I still lean of kicking them out of the country into a third world country for, a couple months, even if it's just going to build a dam. And it doesn't have to be a government thing. This could be a, whatever you call it, nonprofit that you just volunteer for, instead of doing that while you're in school. Any experience you get outside is going to make you a better person. Sure, there's people that can get through and they got a plan when they were in second grade, and that's what they're doing now that they're an adult. But there's a lot of people that don't have that direction, and having that option, even if it's not a mandatory thing, because I mean, yeah, we're Americans. You tell me I've got to do something, I'm not going to do it. But having that option and having a kind of a guide, if you don't, and you decide you're going to live off the state and live, this whatever, fed by the government kind of thing, I would demand that, if you are physically capable, to do some of those, they've got, what is that, what is it, Job Corps even? I mean, any of those things that are kind of structured, I wouldn't demand that it's a government thing. I would lean towards nonprofits and things that are, more charity based, and then just, require that, you do some time. But
Absolutely.
yeah, I still either that or just young Marines would work out best.
Mm-hmm. No,
between second and third grade, young Marines.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Jeffrey, bring you in. What would you want to bring up what you're talking about in the back in response to Patriot? But also, I want to first of all, you're muted. Secondly, what I do want to bring you in is if you had a plan, what would be your plan to solve issues with youth today, if you believe there are any?
Oh, there are issues.
I know you're involved with the Scouts, and I would imagine you would think that the Scouts would be a decent way to go down that road in while they're growing up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead.
So what I hear, often when you look at solving any kind of problem, there are really two approaches you can take, right? You can either push and force a solution, or you can put a carrot out there and kind of have the solution come to you, I guess you could say. And I think I tend to be kind of the hammer kind of personality myself of pushing. But I think often it's more effective to have a pull, instead of, if you try to force people to do stuff. I was a Patriot a minute ago, someone that said, we're Americans. You tell us to do something, we're going to say, screw you. And that's true. I will say that. But if you give me an incentive to do something, if you give me a reason to want to go out and do it, I will beat you to that solution because I want to get that, So you go from dragging my feet and resisting and fighting back and saying, screw you, I'm going to do what I want, to get out of my way. I'm going to run people over to get to that solution, because I'm kind of competitive. So I would do that. But, I think that we have, boy, and this is tough. I hate to say it, but we have too many safety nets right now. We have too many things that make it easy for young people to think they can skate by and not prepare themselves and not have a path forward, not develop any kind of skills, and they're just going to stumble into a solution and be taken care of the rest of their life. And as long as those are out there.
You're making my argument for me. Go ahead.
I'm not at all. No, I don't think taking away people's freedom is a way to solve that. I think it's actually giving them more freedom, which what comes with freedom? Personal responsibility, right? Mm-hmm. So freedom and personal responsibility go hand in hand. And that's something I think that's really not being taught well in this country, is people think, well, I'm free. I can do whatever I want and be free of the consequences of whatever I do. That ain't the way it works. If you choose to not prepare, if you choose to sit around and play video games all day, then you shouldn't count on the government taking my money to support you. That's where I'm coming from. If we take away some of those crutches that allow people to do that, one of the greatest motivators out there is necessity. If you've never been hungry, you don't know what it means to get up in the morning and say, I better go work or I'm not going to eat.
So I still believe that you're actually making my point. And I understand what you're talking about, the freedom and all that. But you just said that most kids don't understand what freedom is. That's what I'm talking about. Most kids, whether they're prepared to go to college or not, that's not what this discussion is about, is whether they're going to be good citizens, whether they do service or not. It's not whether they're going to be good students in college or at trade school or they're going to be able to get a good job. It's not realizing what real life is about, not understanding what freedom is about. That's a part of it. And maybe if they're forced to do something that they wouldn't do on their own, and they get a glimpse or a taste of something that questions what they think they know, to help them understand that freedom isn't free. You have to work hard at being free. We're free because we happen to live here and we're citizens, but are we free if you don't know what freedom really is? That's
what you're saying is, I'm going to teach them what freedom is by taking it away from them.
I'm saying they don't know what freedom is to begin with. So you got to teach them what freedom is. They've got to understand that there's a dark side of the moon for what they grow up as. They have to understand that there are repercussions to everything that you do. And an 18-year-old, in my opinion, most 18-year-olds are not mature enough to understand that they don't know what they don't know.
I got a suggestion.
Yeah, go for it.
If after graduation, if you put them on a bus and drop them off in South Mexico and tell them to get home, would that work? They'll learn skills. They'll learn, boy, America is great.
They'll want to come back here pretty damn quickly, I bet.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go for it. Jeff, do you want to follow up? You're more than welcome to, man. This is a great discussion.
No, not right now.
Okay. Clover, come on in here. What you got?
Me? I'm not getting off in the middle of all this. Good Lord, you done pissed everybody off.
All right. Before we move on, just because I know that people are throwing shit at their screens.
Is that you clicking the pen? Who's clicking the pen?
Sorry, that's my knife. My bad.
Oh.
That's my nervous thing. I always mess with my knife. Sorry. Before everyone,
I think you need to go back into mandatory service to get rid of that tick you've got with fiddling with stuff.
You're absolutely correct that you do that a lot, because I listen to these when I'm out in the garage working on the truck. That shit drives me nuts. I'm sitting there working on something.
Think about it.
Is there a mouse in the side of my garage? What is going on over there? I'm like, oh, he's clicking something.
I don't even think about it. I grab it and I start clicking. So we're an hour and 15 minutes into this, and I know that people are throwing shit at their computer, probably unsubscribe. That's cool. Do it. What you got to do. I just want to put this caveat out there. I am not for mandatory service. Okay. Had Jeff and Clover come on and initially said they were for it, then I would have been against it. It's a great conversation. Do I think that kids need something? Do they need to understand what the real world is about? Absolutely. But it is not the government's job to dictate that. That is as socialistic and fascist as you can get. So if you're out there and you think that I'm just some weird ass socialist out there, I'm not. People were talking earlier, they were throwing out Switzerland and Sweden and all of these countries that do this. What's the one thing that they fucking have in common? They're either communist or they're socialist. Yeah. Okay. That's the reality of it. So I understand that I can play a game here, and it was for the conversation, because what I'm bringing up is exactly that was what was brought up through emails to me. And part of them makes sense. I understand where, I think his name was Curtis. I understand where he was coming from. I understand that there are issues in our country, especially with our youth. And I think that most of them need to have someone set them down and set them straight and let them understand what is right, what is wrong, what you think reality is in this world and what it really is. But guess what? Most of the time, there are people that can help with that. Young Marines, going an internship, joining the Boy Scouts, doing something, traveling to third world countries, traveling somewhere to see outside our borders. But ultimately, it's got to come down to, that's a personal choice. If a person chooses to be a piece of shit, non-productive citizen, it's on them.
That buddy of mine had every excuse in the world, dude. Every excuse in the world. And like I said, he's a wonderful individual.
Yeah. Bernie out there says, my question is why did you come up with this topic? I didn't. You must have missed the beginning of it. I got a wonderful email last week. I think it was last Wednesday. And it was from a guy named Curtis, and asked me what my thoughts on mandatory service. Obviously, he knows I'm a Marine, and, asked my thoughts on mandatory service. And I basically told him whatever else is saying. I think that kids need something. I think it would be wonderful for them to do something, but for the government to dictate that is going down a very, very slippery slope. So I get literally a manuscript in return the next day. And it was basically all the arguments that I've been making tonight, which some of them I think have legs to them. I think that there are things that we can do. I just don't think it needs to be regulated by the government. I'm all for any program that can help kids and help young adults reach their potential. I think that there's anything that we can do to help prepare them for literally when the world hits them in smack dab in their face when they're 19 years old, 18 years old. Yeah. I was 21 when I was married and 22 when I had a kid. I was in the Marine Corps. I went to the Marine Corps, not because, honest to God, not because I had a sense of duty. I did not. I didn't give a flying shit about sense of duty. I was drinking and doing a lot of extracurricular activities that I woke up. Well, I didn't really wake up because I never went to bed that night. But about 3 o'clock in the morning, I was with my best friend at the time. And we both had a realization that we've had several people around us die. And some of them, a bunch of people went to rehab and all that. And we had the idea of, if we don't do something, we're not going to make it. And our thing was go join the military. I chose to go to the Marine Corps because I was that guy. I was I was that guy. If you're going to tell me to do something, then I'm going all in. And I literally said, well, if we're going to do this, I'm going to go the hardest route, and I'm going to go to the Marine Corps. Why? Because fuck you. That's literally my attitude towards it. So that's how I came up with the topic, Bernie, is I am all for anything that can help kids learn a reality. There are things that my 23-year-old daughter does that absolutely drive me up a fucking wall. Ultimately, it's her mistakes she's going to have to make. It's her decisions that she's going to have to deal with. As a parent, are we going to have to be able to support her and help her guide her towards them? Absolutely. There is an old song back in the late 60s, might have been early 70s, from John Sebastian. He was at one point the lead singer of the Lovin' Spoonful. Don't know if you guys know that. I kind of dug that back then. But John Sebastian had a song, and it was about kids growing up. And one of the lines in the song says, eventually you've got to let them stick their finger in the fan. You can tell them over and over and over and over. Don't stick your finger in the fan. Don't grab the hot pot on the stove. Don't do this. Don't do that. Eventually they're going to have to do that. They're going to have to learn on their own. Do I think that there are things that we can do to help them get to that end point quicker and understand quicker? Absolutely. But I don't think the government needs to dictate it. Clover, come on in. I know that you were thinking. I'm sure you've got something to say. You've been quiet way too long.
If I can unmute, I was muted. That's mainly why.
Oh, okay.
So long.
There you go.
But I will address BC out there is talking about, something implemented in school that, kind of helps kids find that direction. And admittedly, some schools have this. This is the problem that we have. I mean, we got the federal Department of Education, and that rolls down, and each state kind of does their own thing. But even the states are broken up into regions, and the whole government in the educational system sucks, point blank. But I do agree with part of what he said, that there should be mechanisms in school that help to. I mean, we identify good sports players, for example, right? We're like, ooh, at the junior high level, even at the little league level, right? Mm-hmm. We identify good sports players, and what do? Oh, man, get him into this program and get him into that program and all of this other stuff, right? Why is there not
trophies have killed us also?
Why is there? Yeah, I agree with that, but I'm on a different path here. If we've got that recognition of the good ball player, why don't we got the good recognition, the recognition of the good mechanic or the good engineer or the good nurse or the good whatever, to be able to push those kids and say, and this is where I think maybe we're falling down as adults, as mentors, as people in the community, as fathers, grandfathers, uncles, whatever. Why are we not helping identify these things and going, you know what? Johnny down there, he helped me work on the Mustang last weekend, and he's really got a knack for turning wrenches. There's nothing wrong with that. Somebody out in the chat said earlier, the lawyers and the doctors need somebody to work on their cars. That's true. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can make good money. Why not identify that? And that might, here's the other thing. Identifying that, make sure that we're teaching kids correctly. Because just because I know people that went to nursing school with my wife, and I don't know how many years ago she's been a nurse now. She'll kill me for not knowing that they work at like Barnes and Noble bookstore or some crap now. You know what I mean? Because they just didn't like it. They went through all that, and then they found out years later that just wasn't for them. And that's going to happen. You may go through junior high and high school and think, I want to do this. And then you do that, and then you completely jump careers for whatever reason. But you know what? You come to that realization, and at least during that time, you was doing something productive, right? So regardless, help identify those kids that are good at this in one thing or another. Don't just keep an eye on the kids that throw a fastball or a curveball. Identify the kids and say, you know what, plant the seed in their head. Say, you know what, you'd make a really good so-and-so when you grow up, right? And that may be all it takes. It's just a simple suggestion.
Absolutely. there was a statement that I wanted to see back up here, and you were kind of going along with what you were saying. The BC was done, and that's probably this might be what you were referencing. That BC made a good point. This might be what he was talking about. The rhetoric of is taught instead of STEM and technical schools in high school. High school needs a 10th grade. So in Japan, where my wife is from, they have to take basically what is a standardized test, an ACT test, whatever you want to call it. They take a test after their 9th grade year. Junior high is 7th, 8th, and 9th. And whatever the test that you take then tells you which high school you're eligible to go to. It has nothing to do with where you live and all that. If you take a test, in some schools, they have certain criteria and certain grade that need to be made on that test. And if you make this test and you say, okay, well, these are your options to go to school. Sometimes they have one option. Sometimes they have all options. But if you do well in a math thing and you want to be in a math, they literally have a high school. It's kind of like a charter school or a STEM school. But they have a school that's not too far from her hometown. I think it's a science and math school. It's basically a college where people from all over, they live there. There's dormitories, but they're there for math and science because that's where they wanted to go do. That's what they want to do. They tested where they could get into that school, and that's where they go to school. Some others that don't, they go to another school and they do trade stuff and all that, whatever. If you do well on the mechanics side of it, they say, well, your grades weren't well enough to go to this one, but you really scored well in mechanical engineering or mechanics or whatever. Maybe you should go to this school and we can teach you a skill. So they're trying to do something to where they're preparing kids for something to do when they get out of high school. We talk about the Japanese education system and Asians in general being extremely smart. But here's the thing. I would say, I asked my wife, but I would say the majority of kids in Japan, especially maybe in Okinawa, but don't go to college because their high school education is so damn good and prepared them for something. They go into jobs waiting for them from high school. That's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. I didn't graduate college and I do well in life. And I'm not saying that I'm rich, but I have a nice house. I have cars. I've got the stuff and that society tells you is nice. I just want to be able to survive. Can I put food on the table? We have shelter. Yeah, we're good to go. I didn't go to college. I'm a dumb Marine that can swing a golf club decently. So it's just one of those things. It's kind of like the ASVAB BC kind of, and I don't take it. I can ask my wife more succinctly about what it is, but I would imagine it's kind of like the ASVAB where they have different sections that kind of figure out what you would be good at. But but those not just going in the military, but those things, excuse me, those actually tell you what high school you're eligible to go to. So take care, RL. Appreciate you coming out, man. But yeah, it's just one of those where I'm all for something like that to say college isn't for everyone. I would be willing to bet that if you take it, our parents' generation, we're all relatively of the same age. So I would say the four of us, our parents were probably baby boomers. Okay. Mine was, I would say the vast majority of baby boomers went to college. I would say the majority of baby boomers kids probably haven't gone, don't go to college or don't graduate from college, I should say, because whatever it is what it is. But I think that there are ways to prepare our kids for being ultimately, and Jeff asked me the question, I was kind of trying to play a role earlier, but if Jeff was to ask me now what my ultimate goal is, you know what my ultimate goal is, Jeff? Ultimately for kids, be productive citizens. That's it. No more, no less. And the word productive, that's selective. That could mean a lot of different things. I want kids to be productive citizens in our country because I think that that's what they need. They need to they don't need to live off the government. They don't need to live off of this, that, and the other. If you need help, then there's help available. But there are kids that watch their parents and for years and years, and they'll probably do the same thing, live off the government because they didn't want to work. I don't want that. I want every citizen to be a productive citizen. I think that that's where the problem is we have a lot of lazy freakers in our country. I don't think that people understand, and I truly don't believe that they respect a good day's work. You look at, he learned gooder. That's what Black has. He learned good of. Not reproductive. No, not at night. I don't think we need reproductive citizens. I think we need productive citizens. Yes. But I think a lot of it comes down to kids today. And I can say that because my daughter's a kid. She's 23, but she's a kid, and she's in this generation that I'm talking about. As much as I would like to think, my daughter is one of those people that I could drop her off in Tijuana. Not that I would want to, but I could drop from Tijuana or Detroit or somewhere that she's never been, doesn't have a clue, doesn't know anyone there. Give her $100 and say, you've got 1 hour to get to the airport or get to the train station. You've got a ticket waiting for you to get home or whatever. You've got 24 hours before that flight leaves. You have to survive on $20 or whatever. She could do that. I know my daughter is resourceful enough, and she has those survival skills. But the common sense factor sometimes doesn't play a role. There are a lot of kids that have a lot of common sense, but not the survival skills. I think if there's a way to combine that for everyone, at least introduce survival skills and common sense to everyone, that's when you start being a productive citizen. And that's my ultimate goal, is to be a productive citizen. Patriot, Clover, Jeff, don't worry about me calling you. Jump in. Anything you guys want to clean up about this subject, because it's been a great conversation.
I would just say, as long as there's options, as long as we give options, and you pay attention to your kids, and if you have kids, if you don't have kids, pay attention to your, kids around, whatever. Not weird, but giving them options, it is always a benefit. No.
Absolutely. And that's really what it comes down to, is options. I think that, let me ask you guys a question, and you guys can answer this. Just go answer it. Doesn't have to be in a particular order. Do you think that the pressure / stigma of all kids must go to college has a negative effect on high school kids? Do you think that they're almost,
definitely?
I don't think that I'm going to go to college, is not for me, so I'm obviously a failure.
Yep.
If you don't have that certificate, you're not getting a job. I remember hearing that all the time.
Well, I think it's got a lot of negatives. I mean, you talk about the person that maybe thinks they're not smart enough or whatever. Maybe they're legitimately not smart enough or something like that. But what about the ones that just flat don't want to? They've got another plan, another path laid out.
I didn't have a plan. That's the problem. I didn't have a plan laid out. From the day that I was born, it was pretty much, my dad was very well educated and got, graduate degrees out the wazoo, and was a very intelligent man. So it was never like you're going to college. It was just understood my whole life I was going to go to college, and I didn't want to. I tried the college thing, and if you want to call it, I did try. I had a really good time, but school wasn't for me. And this is going to sound, it's going to sound crazy. And I know that some of you will understand, and I'm not trying to brag. I'm not trying to, I'm a very intelligent person. If you mentally, I know it sounds crazy, but the crayons haven't killed all my brain cells. School was easy as shit for me.
Yeah.
Like, it was incredibly, like, I could walk into school and I could tell you what the teacher didn't know about the subject. You put a math problem down and I can just look at it and do it. I don't know the steps on how to do it. I've always been able to just do it. I hated science. Science was boring. But school was absolute breeze for me. So I lost interest in high school very quickly because it was just, no one pushed me. And I went to a very good school. I mean, academically, it was a top 10 in the nation. But it was just easy. So at that point, in my mind, well, if this is what it's all going to be about, I don't want to. This is boring to me. I already know a lot of what's being taught. And so the college thing never really was for me. There are people that have to work their asses off for college, and maybe they're going to be better students in college because they had to work their asses off in high school. That's cool. For me, it was just one of those things where I asked my dad one time, I was getting ready to get out of the Marine Corps. And at that point, he was a VP in the big company and had a bunch of employees and all that. And I asked him, and I said, am I screwed? Like, I mean, I'm going to be 23 years old getting out of the Marine Corps with no education. World tells you that you got to have this degree from college or you're never going to get a job, whether Patriot or Clover, whoever said that. It's very, very true. At least back when I was getting out of the Marine Corps, late 90s, that was kind of what it was. And my dad, who hires and fires a lot of people at the time, he was like, he said, and this is, and I'll never forget this. He said, do you know what a diploma is? He said, it's the same thing as an honorable discharge. It means you went through something for 4 to 8, whatever years, but you went through something and you got through it. He doesn't give a shit what your grades were in high school. He said, I would much rather have a 23-year-old that served in the military that I know that has he's been around the world. He's seen a lot of stuff. He has appreciation for things. He's disciplined. He can be trustworthy, all that, versus a 23-year-old that hasn't done nothing but party in the fraternity and go to a couple classes and gotten a piece of paper. He said that a diploma is the same thing as an honorable discharge paper. It's basically saying you completed something without screwing up too badly. And so I think that if people understand, and I'm not saying the military is the way to go, but I think if people understand that ultimately that diploma just means that you got through something in 5 years or however long it takes. It doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to be the greatest employee ever. There are a lot of people that will never go to college that I can guarantee you will be the most loyal, the most dependable, the most trustworthy employees you could ever hire. And they didn't go sit one day in college. So that was kind of my spiel. Sorry. Jeff, Patriot, anything that you want to clear up? And I'm sure Clover, when he comes back, he probably didn't finish. So if he wants to clear up, he can do that. But right now, Jeff or Patriot, anything you want to bring up in the subjects before we start sweeping the floor?
Well, I'll tell you that I have 3 kids in high school, a sophomore, a junior, and a senior. And the appropriate path forward is a very, very real in our face issue that we're trying to sort out. And I grew up with exactly what you said, which was it wasn't an unspoken expectation. It was very much spoken that, we want you to be successful, so you will go to college. Mm-hmm. And that equation was there. Success equals graduate from college. And I did college. I don't know that I really got anything out of undergrad. I went and got a master's degree, and I'm not sure I don't know how valuable that was. I think what that did for me more than anything was kind of what you described. It showed that I could finish something at a higher level, and it required a level.
And that means something. I mean, that does bring value to you as a prospective employee or whatever. It does. I'm not saying that it doesn't bring value, but ultimately it's a certificate of completion, Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So, with that background, even my wife gives me a hard time sometimes when I suggest other options to the kids, because she was brought up the same way. If you are smart and you want to be successful, you will go to college. And we agreed on that early on. We're going to raise these kids with that expectation. And then as things have changed, the same thing happened with our education system that happens with anything where the government gets involved and tries to make it affordable. All right.
Right.
What's affordable mean? It means to them, it means easy access to money. Easy access to money means more people coming with their hands out trying to get that money. All right. So they drove the cost of education up, and they brought they put the focus on getting a bigger piece of that pie from an institutional standpoint. And so now I look at the ROI on college, and I'm like, yeah, like I'm talking to my son who's a senior and trying to figure out what he wants to do. Like,
Right.
dude, does it make sense to spend what it costs just to get an undergraduate degree right now? Yeah, I don't know. What's your plan? What are you going to do? What do you want to do to support yourself and to make a difference in the world? Okay, tell me what your goal is. We will figure out the most efficient and effective path to get there. And if it's 4 years, 6 years, 8 years of college, brother, we're going to make it happen. But if that's not the path that's going to get you to your goal most efficiently and most effectively, then we ain't going to do that. We're not just tossing money down that hole.
Right. All right, got a call. Let's see who this is. Armed Citizen Podcast Live. Who's this?
Hey, baby cakes, it's Trav.
Hey, what's up, Trav?
I got an interesting little thing to talk about here for you.
Yeah, go for
not
it.
that anybody cares, maybe, but this is pretty interesting. When I went to culinary school, and you guys were talking about what's important with a degree and what's not important with a degree,
Sure,
and all this kind of stuff. I went to culinary school after high school, and you could do one of two things at the school I went to. You could go for the bachelor's program, or you could go for the culinary certificate, right?
Okay.
Same exact culinary program. Culinary program did not change. You went in, you did the same classes, all this other stuff.
Okay.
For the bachelor's program, you went and you did your math, your science, your English, all that kind of other stuff that you would normally do in college, right? So now, looking back on it, and now I'm hiring people, right? As a chef, I'm hiring cooks, I'm hiring, whatever. Somebody comes in with a certificate or they come in with a bachelor's degree, I almost don't care.
Right.
I know they went through the culinary part of it, and either they did well or they didn't, whatever, and they can cook or they can't cook, and you don't really know that until you put a knife in their hand anyway. But you spend a little bit more money. I did, my parents did. They funded me. Sure. And I have a bachelor's degree. But looking back on it, I'm like, well, hell, did that really matter? It might have. Did it open any doors for me? Not really, because personally, I ended up going to a country club. Mm-hmm. I did my internship there. I worked my way up and eventually was running the kitchen there.
Right.
But as a young cook, it didn't matter. As an older person, maybe they see that bachelor's degree and they say, oh, this guy's got a degree. He knows what he's doing. When in fact, he might not, you know what I mean? Anyway. But, that's that's a different little situation that I went through that, maybe other people haven't really seen.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you a question if you got a second real quick.
I'm at work, but I don't have to,
Well, I mean, just 2 seconds, but if, you went through the bachelor's program versus the certificate. Now, I would imagine that if you were trying to go for maybe a more prestigious job or a chef's job right out of that, then having that bachelor degree might have served you more appropriately than the certificate. But how many kids are, would that be true? I mean, would having that degree, is that kind of where it would be, was you would have maybe more doors open, maybe?
Could.
Not better doors, just more doors.
Right. It could, because, obviously to go through the program, you have to do an internship. I did an internship at a place and then went back, and that's where I was hired. They hired me back because I didn't suck.
Sure.
But if you were looking for an internship, sure, that might come into play a little bit. But anybody that would hire a kid straight out of culinary school without other experience, mm-hmm. to a chef's position is in for a rude awakening anyway.
They're crazy to begin with. Sure.
99.9% of the kids that come out of culinary school can't do anything except, basics. And they're not managing.
They're not even ready for sous chefs. They're just going to be a line cook, right?
Sure, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. So could it matter? Yes. Does it matter 99% of the time? Probably not. And the people like me that know that are hiring also know that, you know, there's some badass cooks out there that never went to culinary school.
Right. Absolutely.
Some badass, you know what I mean? So it's you know, this industry it's a trade, just like you guys are talking about trades. And, you know, it's definitely school versus work versus how much school, where you go, all that kind of stuff. I know people that have gone to CIA and they spent $100,000 to get a culinary degree that can't cook for shit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, hey, you know, you get what you get out of it, what you put into it. You know what I mean? They always say.
Absolutely. Hey, I know you got to get to work. Thanks for calling in. Yeah, it's a great perspective. The certificate versus degree. I think Clover is probably going to want to follow because I know that he went through a similar path. But yeah, thanks for coming on, bro, and be safe out there.
Yeah, buddy. Thanks, man. See ya.
You got it, bro. See you. Yeah, that's a great one. Degree versus certificate, and that's another thing because the certification is going to be just as valuable to someone and take half the time. You know, Clover, I know that you probably are going to want to say something about that. You've got the floor if you'd like to.
Yeah, you know, when I was talking earlier about, you know, what a kid may want to do in elementary school, junior high, high school, their 20s, their 30s, that could all morph and change over time. And I know it did for me. I spent the, you know, high school, whatever, made straight A's, did not finish my senior year, was already working in the grocery store, worked myself up to an assistant manager position there. Morphed over into, was really into cars back then, morphed over into the mechanic thing. That led into the computer thing. Here's where the certification thing comes into play. A little bit with the mechanicking thing, though, to be honest. You know, employers, at least then, we're talking in the 90s, they paid a lot more attention to the individual certificates because especially if you were looking for that type of work, like undercar suspension, alignment, those sort of things. If you were ASE certified in those particular areas, that's what they wanted. They didn't care if you had, you know, the master's, mechanic, or you had some kind of 4-year degree in, you know, some kind of automotive sciences. And then, so it morphed to that when I switched over into computers. I was working for Sears at the time, and they were tired of paying the alignment machine technicians to come in from the DFW area anytime one of the alignment machines went down. So they wanted, you know, volunteer, gathered us in a meeting, volunteer said, hey, you know, who, you know, wants to go to this 2-day school, blah, blah, blah. And from now you can, you know, you'll work on the machines, and for, you know, we'll pay you X number of dollars. I don't even forget what it now is, but it's like coming like an hour at time and a half or something like that. And, the old dudes, none of them raised their hand. It was literally 2, me and another young guy. It's like, we'll go, sure. Well, that school was basically, it was working on those alignment machines, but guess what? They ran on Windows 95 and they ran on Windows 95 computers. So eventually I was working on computers in my bedroom for people and stuff, and thought, well, crap, I'm going to take this. There's no sense in being out in the cold heat and hot shop, cold shop, whatever it might be, getting dirty, getting greasy. I'm doing enough on the side. I'm just going to do this full time. Then that led into an issue again with certifications where it was an opportunistic thing. There was these contracts that come about with me and my IT business that you had to have these certifications to get these contracts. And so I looked into it, and it was in like 18 months, I could get like 6 years. It was like 6 years for the program, whether it was associates or bachelor's or whatever it was. I don't remember now. It was like 6 years, all this other garbage mixed in, electives and math and science and whatever, you know, or in like 18 months, I could have all of these certifications that covered just about anything and everything in the IT world. And when people hire you or contract you for this work, that's all they care about. It's what's specific to the job that they need you to do. Are you proficient in that? Right. So yeah, I mean, this whole notion that, Jeff hit the nail on the head when he talked about efficiency. When you're looking at your education, look at what's efficient and expedient for sure. And not cost prohibitive is another thing. Look at the money you save. I mean, it was with those certification programs. Now, granted, they were on loans, which is a very bad idea for anybody out there that doesn't already know. But even with the interest on the loans, you were looking at like 17 grand, right? For 18 months. Now, that compared to 6 years worth of college was a drastic savings, even though they robbed me on the interest with the student loan.
They have a tendency of doing that.
Yes.
I was in my mid to late 30s when I got my shit paid off, obviously I started school later.
But they make it so much easier. They make it so easy for you to drag it out.
$37 a month if you want.
And you could defer it for an entire year. If you call off it. Oh, not a problem. And meanwhile, the interest is compounded and compounded and compounded. So they know how to work it.
Yeah, I want to start paying it. Okay, you owe us $17,000 for the last year you took off. I'm sorry, what?
Yeah,
but it was $9,000.
Yep, sorry,
it was, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. But no. All right, but one thing I want to talk about before we jump off is this Saturday, the Second Amendment, Amendment rally for, actually it's called the Rally for Your 2A Rights. The Second Amendment rally, whatever you want to call it. It's obviously going to be a virtual thing this year. I'm going to go over here. I'm trying to get the website real quick. Sorry. And post it. And it's going to be 30 some odd speakers, 34 at one point. It might be down to 30. At one point it was 37, but it's be 30 to 35 speakers. They're going to be doing it. Some really, really great. There's a website that you can go to it. But Saturday, October 24th, over 30 speakers will share their thoughts on celebrating and defending the rights protected by our Second Amendment. Just, excuse me, some of the speakers out there, and you guys are going to know a lot of them. Eric Blanford, which is Iraq veteran 8888. Pete Brownell, does it take too much to figure out who that is? Chris Chang, for most of you that know this, but he won Top Shot. Our own friend John Crump. How the hell did I get John? I love
That's
John.
It's going to be an interesting speech.
I love John. I can't listen to him talk that much. Right. It's what it is. No, just kidding. You've got the Puerto Rican Pistoleros over there. Craig DeLuz. KD is going to be speaking. Todd Fossey, good friend of ours. Good Todd Fossey. Alan Gottlieb. And you guys don't know that Alan Gottlieb started the Second Amendment Foundation amongst an enormous of other activist things. Alan Gottlieb is amazing. I met him in person a couple times. I know Clover has. Probably Jeff has too. Oh, yeah. Amazing person. Jared Hutchins, Jim Irvine, Argo J. If you've never been around Argo's a good dude, man. That guy can talk. He's going to be one of those that get you fired up. Dana Loesch, Clint Macro, Rhonda Mary, Diana Mueller, Aaron Paulette. Love Aaron Paulette. She's with Pink Pistols, and Aaron's a great, great person. I want to say, did you not have her on one of your podcasts, Clover? I think you did.
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, still text back and forth and do other things. Yeah. Now you glossed over somebody there, and just for everybody out there, you glossed over Jim Irvine, and Jim Irvine. Those that don't know,
I did. I didn't even.
Second Amendment Foundation, and Jim Irvine is up there with Alan Gottlieb. He is a rock star. For sure.
I'm just going scanning of people they might know names.
Alan Gottlieb is kind of at the forefront. Jim Irvine is kind of one of those nerdy 2A people, or no Jim Irvine, but the vast majority of firearm owners are people that are somewhat 2A. So definitely, I'm saying if you don't know who Jim Irvine is already, definitely tune into the 2A rally for Jim Irvine. I think he'll get your attention.
Yeah, I was kind of going over people that might recognize names. Obviously, Pincus will be there. Eric Pratt. Yehuda, our good friend Yehuda, Pew Jew, Rebecca Schmille, he's a good friend of mine. I think Clover, you probably know her. I don't know, Jeff, you might know her. She's the podcast host with Tim Knight. So Rebecca's great. Our big buddy, big Tony Simon is going to be on there. Amanda Suffolk is going to be there. Cheryl Todd, Maj, and like I said, there's over 30 people going to be doing the rally, but it's going to be virtual. There's a link out there, secondamendmentrally.com. Go check them out. It's going to be a great thing that you're going to.
And it looks to be, if people actually watch the gun rights policy conference, I know there was a lot that was kind of turned away. There was the first year that they did the GRPC online. And so it wasn't a very big production element. They don't really understand. They don't do the podcasts and things online like we do. And so there was that learning curve there and the weirdness. What we've got with the 2A rally that I hope is different, right? Because I haven't seen any of the or anything else. But in talking with Jeff Knox and Rob Pincus and some of the other ones, that was one of my concerns with talking with them was, is this going to be kind of bland like the GRPC, or are you going to see online influencer, creator, podcaster style presentations? And it should be that way. So it should be a pretty captivating time with these different speakers.
If they're going to do it the way that last time I was talking with Pincus was a few months ago, before he came on, I went a month or two without talking with Rob, which is odd. But when we were talking one time, he was expressing that, they're going to give X amount of time and they're going to be relatively strict with a time limit just because there's so many people. But what that does is that forces people to concentrate their message into one pretty powerful message instead of jib jabbering and letting it go on for 12, 15 minutes. If you got 5-6 minutes, get your point, punch it down the throats with a point. So it's going to be entertaining. And if you haven't thought about it, I'll be doing a watch party. Possibly I'll be at work. But it depends. I might do a watch party. I invite anyone to do a watch party. But if I'm available, then I might do one. But probably what's going to happen is I'm going to have my earbuds on with it going on my phone so I can hear while I'm working. So I suggest if anyone's out there that wants to do a watch party, then go for it. I found that watch parties are pretty cool because you can watch something like a debate or something instead of being with a bunch of strangers, being with friends, having conversations and hanging out. It's somewhat more enjoyable. What's going on back here? Blanford, I thought. No, Eric Blanford. Yep. Clover just said no, Blanford. I don't know where the other name came from, but no, it's Blanford. Jeffrey.
Jeff's wrong, as usual.
Jeff wrong, as usual. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, the Second Amendment rally can be out there and all of that stuff. So
now I fell asleep for a minute. Did you say you were going to try to simulcast or?
Midnight out there asked if I was going to do a watch party.
Yeah.
And I love the idea. I'll be at work Saturday. So I said, if I've got some time, I would love to. And what might happen is I might just do a watch party and not be there full time, but go ahead and simulcasting it. I might do that. Right. But chances are I'm going to have it on my phone in an earbud while I'm at work, but I might be able to set something up, and do it that way. I plan on maybe doing a watch party Thursday night, for part of the debate before Clover's thing happens. Well, actually, I won't because the actual debate won't start until I think like 8 Central. Like they do all their things, so it's not going to actually start. So I probably won't. But if it does start on time, then I might do a little bit of that. But yeah, Saturday I'll definitely be watching whether or not I do a simulcast. If I have time to set it up and just let it go and people can do their own thing, kind of use like the old lobbies. You just set it up and walk away, we could definitely do that. If y'all are interested in that, then yes, I could do that for sure. Just someone remind me midnight. Trav, just send me a text Saturday morning, bright and early, because you and I will probably both be up at the same time. Shoot me a text in the morning, remind me to set that stream. So I'll forget. Let's see here. All right. Patriot, you still around? You fall asleep? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to ignore you, but if you're out there, I know that you've got a great project, the 1776 project out there, and I know that it's something it's awesome. While you're doing that, I want you to talk about that. But while you're doing that, I'm going to put links out there for you while you're doing that.
Is this thing on muted?
It is, yeah. I hear you now. I hear
Okay, it keeps just my phone's really messing up, but I appreciate it. It's actually just a big giveaway. There's 13 packages, some custom holsters, and speaking of Alan Gottlieb, some Second Amendment Foundation memberships. There's 13 of them, and I'm looking for American heroes, true heroes, not those fake ones you see on TV or the first ones that come up when you do a search. You can either do a video, or if you're not into videos, you can just leave a comment with the person's name and a brief description of what made them a hero in your eyes. I have the very first one Travis Heath did, and of course it was a fellow Marine, and so that was pretty impressive. So there's actually two drawings. One's November 4th, and the second one is January 20th. And there's also a honorable mention prize for somebody that really goes above and beyond. And that one, depending on what state you're in, has to be legal. So I have to wait and see who wins it.
So,
but yeah, there's a lot of stuff. It's all coming out of my own pocket. So it's for liberty and freedom. And I'm just wanting to put together a bunch of real American heroes, so that when you search, you can actually find the real guys, not the it's easy to call this person a hero. One of the stipulations was that it's probably got me in trouble, was that just because you have a difficult job or it's really dangerous does not automatically make you a hero. So I think that kind of upset a couple people, because when you say hero, the first responder, first thing that comes to mind. But which doesn't mean they're not heroes, but they have to have a specific thing that makes them a hero, not just because they have a job or a badge or a funny hat.
You're asking people to nominate other people, right? Not nominate themselves.
Well,
is that what you're saying?
No. This is through history, American history. It could be Harriet Tubman. I don't care who. Somebody in American history
of that whoever nominates that hero is going to be the winner. I got you.
Yeah. So if you, and it could be somebody that there's plenty of people that Ghost has had on his chat that are definitely heroes. You ask them, they're going to deny it and say no, and that is one of the big prerequisites of being a hero is denying it. Anybody, but it's just the idea of getting that information out there, because there's a lot of positivity in real people that have done above and beyond things. And I don't know, there's two videos that I did. The first one was 10 minutes, and that's way too long. So I did a little abridged one that's like 5 minutes, and it gives you the gist of what to do and where to put them and whatever. So if you
I'm
feel
spamming
obliged, that'd be great.
I'm spamming my own chat with your links right now. So
okay.
There's videos and to his channel. Go ahead and check out those.
And it's for my 1K giveaway. I'm above 1K, and it's just kind of a celebration thing, whatever. I just want to give back, and I think this is important. And it's the 1776. That's why I went with the 13 prizes. So I don't know.
Love it. I love it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
I love this. No, man, anytime. And I'm glad you're doing this. It's going to be kind of a cool thing. So you have the first drawing you said is November 4th. Is that correct?
Yes. And both drawings are going to be on Wednesdays. And I do all my live stuff over on Rick's Life as I See It on the Shooting with Disabilities chat. Because, being a blind guy, I like hanging out over there. And the live stuff that he does a little bit better than I do. So, but
I love
January 20th and the 4th of November.
January 20th on like Inauguration Day.
Yeah. That's those
Very
are I
nice.
kind of picked those dates for because they're
nice.
both Wednesdays. So yeah,
I like
give you
that.
something better to do than just if people are down.
Hey, let's see here. I want to look something up real quick because I think that could be awesome. Here. I think I'll check this. Hey, I want to say, what day is it? What day is it? Day. Hold on. Holy hell. Because I didn't even think about it. All right. But you said November 4th is a Wednesday. So I'm thinking I'm doing my crayon eating math.
Yeah.
November 10th is a Tuesday. We're going to have a pretty damn good show on the Marine Corps birthday that night. That would be a fun birthday. It's a Tuesday night Marine Corps birthday celebration. That is interesting. Midnight Range CM says, when is the deadline to do your video? Is it just any time before November 4th or what?
Yeah, that's I didn't even think of that. I mean, yeah, an hour before the chat so I can write them all down, I guess. I don't know. And the idea of doing two different drawings was because, like I said, as right now I have 2 entries. So but
now
like I said,
you're not giving out prizes each time, are you?
What's that? No, just a total of 13.
Okay,
things.
I was like, wow.
I'll probably give like the first because I have 2 top prizes. One, there'll be a custom holster depending on what you carry. If you carry, and if you don't, then obviously I'll have to massage that and figure out something different. But it kind of just depends on who wins and where you live. I've been looking at some different things, and I'm surprised. Everybody thinks that black powder firearms, or that are not firearms, can be sent everywhere, but there's a lot of states that you can't send stuff to. I've been looking at the Derringers, the little black powder Derringers and stuff. So.
That'd be kind of cool. Sure. Yeah, so go check out. I put the links out there. Go check out his channel first of all, but go check out the 1776 project and 1K giveaway project. Congratulations on 1K, brother. And I'd love to go ahead and set you with the date. I'd like for you to be my date for the Marine Corps virtual ball on November 10th. If you'd like to come on the podcast, I think it'd be kind of a cool podcast on the Marine Corps birthday. So
that sounds
wonderful. Welcome. If you want to, let me know and I'll send you a link. So
sounds great.
Now
Thank you.
I can have like 10 people on the panel now. That'd be kind of a cool podcast. Trying to get a bunch of jarheads in here. We'll see.
Whiskey and cigars.
Can't do it wrong, right? All right, Jeffrey, thanks for coming on, buddy. You want to plug anything? What you got coming up with Gear Report? And I know they got a show tomorrow night, but what do you want to plug? Anything right now?
Do I? Yeah. If you want to follow along with a project that I have put so much money into, it's not even funny. I have
literally.
Oh yeah. One of the latest iterations of a military Humvee. So it's a 5th generation.
What kind? Not just the military, but what kind of Humvee?
I don't want to say it. Don't make me say it.
Yes, you do. Yes, a Marine Corps Humvee, by the way.
Former Marine Corps Humvee. It's retired, and unfortunately,
we're all former Marines here.
it was abused, and the transmission has died with only 40 miles on it. So I think the maintenance it received in the Marine Corps was a little lackluster, we'll say.
They might not have had the certifications, just saying.
Yeah, they didn't go to the trade school.
Go to the school now.
Yeah. So they just had bachelor's degrees in something, apparently. But anyhow, if you want to follow that project along, that's the big thing I'm doing. We got all kind of cool stuff. Gear Report. Why do we call it Gear Report? Do you know why it's called Gear Report? You know what it was initially? The first iteration, Jeff's kayak reviews.
I knew that had something to do with kayaking. I didn't know the name was. I knew that's how you started out, was doing the kayaking thing, but I didn't know that was what it was called.
Shoulders, so he needed something more generic that would keep up with his ADD and let him do things even when he hurt himself. So I said, Gear Report. You know what? That's generic. Gear can be anything I want. So
any niche
report, you'll see whatever I want to show you.
Or it could be very specific to just gears.
Or, could be very specific to gears. Speaking of transmissions, it could be a transmission gear report.
Could be. You have to come check it out to know for sure.
And are you doing this Week in Gear Report tomorrow night?
I think so. Yeah.
Think so? All right.
It's on the schedule, so we'll see if anyone shows up.
I put the gearreport.com, gear-report.com is the links out there. From there, you can find all of the reviews that the team does, which Clover and I are I don't know if you're still allowing us to be part of the team. We haven't really contributed a whole lot lately.
Right.
You know how much paperwork's involved with kicking someone off the team? I think you're safe. I don't like the paperwork.
He said, I'm going to give you another year.
Right.
Automatically renewed contract.
I think it was a year before I ever made my first post.
Yeah.
You got the reviews out, and you can navigate to all of their social media from there. But go check out gear-report.com. Sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
I was going to point out something that for a while, and I'm stalling so that I can look it up because I don't remember what it is. But Ghost, you have overtaken. Budget had the most popular article on Gear Report for a while.
Which one of mine is it?
The X-Star pistol, something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And you overtook him recently. And it's the 3,000 round review. What was that on?
Could be one of two things. It could be the Walther, could be the SAR. I don't think it was the Canik. It was probably either the Walther or the SAR, if I had to guess.
All right, bear with me.
Review sounds like the Walther, actually, because I think I did 3,000 reviews without 3,000 rounds. I did the first 1,000 or 2,000 without cleaning it. But I think I did a 3,000. I think my SAR was a 2,500. But it might be the SAR or the Walther. But it might be the Walther. Hell, I don't remember. That was a long time ago.
I lied to you. I'm sorry. I tried to make you look good, and now I went and looked at the last month. And you have been overtaken now. Dang. I hate this. See, I was trying to call you out for doing awesome. I know that that review, whichever one we're talking about, with the 3,000 has done really well lately. But I just searched for the last month and a half. It's the legendary review that is leading right now.
Well,
so Clover's G44 22 long rifle Glock. Oh, that's the 3,000 round review. Crap.
Okay,
yeah,
so which one was mine? Do you know?
So mine is leading.
Yeah.
That would make sense with the search traffic and other things I'm seeing on the videos for that. That would make total sense. Yeah.
Can you see which review of mine it was? Because 3,000, as I said, I don't think was it the Walther or the SAR. I bet was probably.
I think that mixed you guys up. You're like one person to me. Is it Ghost? Is it Clover? I don't know.
Thanks.
Is it close?
It's Glover.
It's close. Glover. Yeah, it's Glover.
Yeah, Glover. Technical. Yeah. Over tech. Yeah, I don't know. Regardless.
All right.
That backfired. I tried to.
You definitely need to kick him off Gear Report.
Oh, never mind. It was Clover.
Well, at least I was here, and you're not, completely.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's all good. All right. Speaking of the asshole that overtook me, Clover, you want to plug anything?
Baby, that's about time I beat you at something. Good Lord. I do. Speaking of that, Brand new FUD shotgun, man. And there's like no information anywhere on the internet. I've done searches for like the last 3 or 4 days just to see. I think Davidson's, if you pull up a search, you'll see it in Davidson's, maybe a couple other online places. I can't find anything on YouTube with it. It is the new pump shotgun from Rock Island Armory, the All Generations series. And may have the very first and only right now video on YouTube. So jump over, check that one out.
You released it a week before they allowed you to release it. Of course, you're going to be the only one.
I didn't. They told me yesterday. I got the email yesterday morning. They said it's good to go. And I'm like, well, I know they probably sent these out to 50 different freaking people. So, but I've been keeping an eye, and I'm like, hey, I guess maybe I got a leg up here. But at the end of the day, it's a FUD gun. It's a pump shotgun. So will it do well? Who knows? We'll see.
I've got a couple Rock Island shotguns. They're not FUD style shotguns, but they are Rock Island shotguns, and I like them. So I like the bullpup a lot more, but I do like them. So
the interesting thing with this one, I think MSRP on this one is somewhere around like the 250 mark, maybe.
Oh, really?
Maybe
Wow.
300, okay. And like a base Mossberg is close to 400. And this one has the Magpul style furniture, and I mean, it's pretty cool for a budget. I would classify it as a budget pump shotgun for sure. And it's very stylish and cool. I call it FUD meets tactical myself because it is.
Fudactical?
It's Fudactical, yeah.
Yeah. I think you and I need to do a collaboration video of dueling shotguns from Rock Island. I bet you they would enjoy us doing dueling shotguns from Rock Island.
That could be interesting.
That could be. Anyways, all right. Patriot, Clover, Jeff, you have anything else that you want to bring up or plug before we head out? This is the time to do it. And you're muted, Jeff, so.
I sound better when I'm muted.
You do. I'm not going to lie. I will agree with that.
Keep telling me that. Yep. I learned. You only have to tell me once. I learned.
You sound a lot better, too, if you turn your camera off. Oh, wait, did I say that out loud? I'm sorry. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's just one of those.
Did it just get cold in here?
Hey, explain to me how you put me on a pedestal saying that I have the all-time leading article on Gear Report, and then say, oh, wait, nope, Clover has it now.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so it is what it is.
How long have you known me? I am unreliable.
That hurt. Holy shit. The knife got me.
That's what you get for clicking the knife, man.
Holy hell. Yeah. All right, I'll put the knife down. Holy shit. Drew a little blood. Motherfucker, that hurt.
All right. Poking the needle in the little knife voodoo doll finally paid off.
Yes, it did. All right. Wow. 2 hours and 17 minutes. Holy Jesus. Thanks for watching. If you're still with us, the 12 or so people that are here after 2 hours, bless you. Bless you. You have absolutely no reason for being here, but thank you for sticking around. If you've made it this far in replay or especially in podcast form, one of two things have happened. Actually, one of three things have happened. One, you fell asleep. Two, you've been taken captive, and this is what they're using to terrorize you. And we had some tactics that we use for interrogation and finding weird shit for people to listen to. This would be one of those interrogation things, making you listen to this podcast for 2 hours and 20 minutes. Or three, you're on a long haul trucker and you literally have nothing else on your phone except for this. So bless you all. Thank you so much. Yes, I got scammed. Midnight feels my pain. I got scammed. It is what it is. And Rich says that Clover and I could stand on each other's shoulders. And apparently he's saying we're an eighth of one person. I beg to differ. We are at least a fifth of a person, at least a fifth, maybe a fourth. I don't know. But thanks for coming on. Patriot, go check him out. Clover, go check him out. Go check out Jeff over at gear-report.com. Check out who was over here. RL was on here earlier. I think that's all we had at one point. We have more than that. I can't remember. Oh, Midnight Range. Go check out the closer Sunday nights at 10:30-ish. Go check out all these guys. Rich White's out there. Sarge was out there. Obnoxious was out there. Elfsters was out there. Go check out all these guys. Gary was out there. Go check out any of these. Snob was out there. Go check out these guys. There's channels that are making great content. If you're thinking about turning a camera on, do it. If you need help, call one of us. We're more than happy to help. But the more 2A pro gun cameras we can get turned on to YouTube and Facebook and everywhere else, they're eventually going to take us seriously. So get out there, turn the camera on. So thanks for watching. We'll see you soon. Go vote. And as they say in Chicago, vote early and vote often. But get out there and vote, guys. The voting, I voted yesterday, and it was one of those things where it is one of those that it is our fundamental duty as American citizens. This is our voice. If you don't vote, then I don't want to hear you complain over the next 4 years of how bad the government is. You have an opportunity to have your voice heard. It takes literally, well, it could take some time this year. It took me 7 minutes from the time I walked in the door till I walked out. I went Monday at like 2:30 in the afternoon, so there wasn't a big line. But even if there's a 2-hour wait, that's your voice. Get out there and vote. If you haven't registered to vote yet, you can still do that. Just Google register to vote. Go down to your county clerk and ask them, how do I vote? Go to anywhere in those, where do I register to vote? And they'll tell you where to go. You can do it online. You can do it all sorts of places, but register to vote and go vote. So thank you so much for always watching. We love you guys. Semper Fi.